But I want them also to know that there's some pretty important people here tonight to honor them, and they may not all realize that. I'm going to let them introduce family members and all that, but I want you to know some of the people that are here tonight. Nathan Wheeler, who's our video guy, he's the Director of Marketing and Public Information for the college, and he was the Outstanding Staff Award winner in 2015. Up here sitting next to Tim Wills, but technically she is my date this evening, Kay Zibby Dameron, who is the CEO of the Rend Lake College Foundation, doing excellent work. Julie Oxford in the back. Oh, good, Dave got seated right as I was introducing her. She is the 1995 Outstanding Staff Award honoree. And you're not going to believe this, but she's now in her 35th year running the athletic department almost single-handedly. Tim's the athletic director and gets the credit for it, but there's the person running the show. I'll just be honest with you, and I think he would be too. I consider Julie and her husband Dave as two of my favorites. I've known them for years. And I count on David every year to provide me with a joke to tell. I don't have I like to be humorous, but I don't have any jokes that I can remember. And so he tells me one every year for this occasion. But I've never been able to tell any of them in public, to be honest with you. So we'll move on from there. But thanks, Dave, again for the joke. This guy is a surefire Hall of Famer, but he's just not old enough yet. Recent retiree Dave Ellingsworth sitting at the back table, and his wife Vicki. They fit they were like Lee. Met his wife here on campus, went to a dance with her. The rest is history. You did well, Dave, you know that. But David is retired after winning 949 games as the softball coach at Rend Lake College. I'm sure, 100% sure, David was going to be at 1,000 before COVID took over, and he just finally had to give it up. But he was well on his way to that magical number. But there are very few coaches at any level of any sport that have won that many ball games. And one day, when he's old enough, he'll be eligible for the Hall of Fame also. And I have a... How old do you have to be? Older. You're anxious. I'm glad you heard me, though. That's what I'm proud of, that you're able to hear me. The sound is on, Nathan. And like the Wyatts, Vicki and Dave can be found as queen candidate and her escort in a previous yearbook from Mount Vernon Community College. Is that not correct? That's correct. That is correct. Thank you. Very good. We're great to have you here tonight. Among the former teammates that I'm aware of who have joined us in the celebration, longtime Steelville and Warrior baseball teammate Bruce Harmson. Bruce, give us a wave there. His father and baseball coach, Bruce's father and farmer, may have had something to do with the Warriors' retirement. I don't think that's the word I'm looking for here. I'm sorry, lost my place here.
We won't remember
no.
Anyway, it's okay.
That's good. Recruitment, not retirement, of Sonny Wyatt, because if he was honest with me, Sonny had never heard of Rend Lake College. He lived all the way in Steelville, Illinois, which is a long, long ways from here. How many miles?
I don't know, but that's a big town.
That's a big town, so yeah. But Bruce was coming here, and his father said, well, you ought to check into that. It's my understanding. And the next thing you know, we're getting a Hall of Famer out of that deal, and a 2-year basketball or baseball player, and 1-year basketball player out of Bruce. So that was a mighty good deal all the way around. Another member, he's a member of the selection committee, and he had something to do with both of the honorees tonight. But he was a freshman who played in the backcourt with sophomore Wyatt, and then he played a major role on a Warrior baseball team that is now a member of the Hall of Fame. They went 32-6, and they were number 2 in the state, nationally ranked at one time during the season. And that team went into our Hall of Fame in 2016. So that would be John Kretz, who also is a former coach at Rend Lake. John had a part in getting Sonny on there, but he had no part in voting his own team into the Hall of Fame. That's correct, isn't it, John? You had no thing to do with voting your own team. You bowed out of that vote. Yes, I just want people to know that.
But he had me vote twice.
Makes sense. Another person that I'd like to introduce, very important to Rend Lake College, as so many of these people here are tonight, Roger Treese. Roger was a student manager for the basketball team that Wyatt was on. Were you a student manager for baseball also? Yeah. And then Roger liked it so much around Rend Lake College, he stayed around for 31 years as a valued member of the physical plant department, and he earned an Outstanding Staff Award in 1989. Correct? Sound right? There may be others. Now, if I are, the only 2 other people I haven't introduced yet are our presenters and their connections too. But so you're in good company here tonight, just not a bunch of people that just showed up. And again, part of this big crowd is the Shively family reunion. Correct? Raise your hand if you're part of the Shively family reunion. They're back there, they're all around you. Be careful what you say about Randall's credentials for entering the Hall of Fame. We're just going along with it tonight. Glad to have all of you. The next person, I'm going to get off here finally. Rend Lake College Athletic Director Tim Wills is a Hall of Famer in waiting. He's a little bit like Dave Ellingsworth, but a couple years, not as quite as old as just, a couple. It's hard to believe, but Professor Wills is in his 30th year as a member of the faculty. He's in his 25th year as the athletic director, longer than any of his predecessors, and he was the men's basketball coach longer than any other individual. 18 seasons from 92 through 2010. And he actually is more than a Hall of Famer in waiting, because he was a member of the Hall of Fame basketball team that was 25-7 in 1983-84 and was inducted in 2017. Tim's a former presidential scholar athlete at the school. He was recognized as the Foundation's Alumnus of the Year for the whole college in '96, and he's one of 50 influencers featured in a special booklet published back in 2017 when the college celebrated its 50th anniversary. I will introduce now, hopefully he agrees with this, my good friend, Tim Wills.
Thank you, Bob. I appreciate that. It made me sound a lot better than I am, I know that. On behalf of the athletic department and the selection committee, some of whom are here and we've talked about, I want to just welcome everybody to Rend Lake College, and Randall and Lee, who I've known Randall a long time. I've just got to meet Lee face to face tonight. Tonight's about you guys. Congratulations. So well deserving of the honor, and we want to make this night special for you, and great that you're able to have some teammates and some family and friends here to celebrate this. I do want to say a few thank yous. First of all, to the selection committee. They did a great job of picking, once again, to use a baseball analogy, I think our committee knocked it out of the park this year by bringing in 2 extremely well-deserving people. I don't want to be a downer, but I want to make sure that you 2 guys know Coach McClure was a part of the committee. He was 1 vote. You have to get 7 out of 9 votes to get in, which is a big deal, but he was your coach, and he advocated heavily for both of you. your stats speak for themselves, no question. But Bob can tell you, and John can tell you, he advocated heavily for both of you. So I wanted you to know that because we all miss him a lot. So Julie Oxford, Bob mentioned Julie. She took care of setting the room up, the decorations, helping get the plaques ordered and the catering and everything that goes into this, in addition to helping to run our entire department. Makes my job much, much easier than it would be otherwise. And a special thanks to Bob Kelley. He does the programs, the press releases, interviews. I mean, the article, I don't know if you guys have had a chance to read the article yet in the program about you, but he leaves no stone unturned, as you probably know from talking to him. Does a great job of describing what you guys did and what you've done since that point. And then he's kind enough to drive up here from down around Lexington to MC this for us every year, so I appreciate that. So I don't want to take any more time. After we get done, we can't go this year over to where the plaques hang in the lobby. Over between the gym and what used to be our aquatic center is now being redone as an event center. And that's just a mess of construction right now, but we will get pictures and send those to you guys when we get those hung up and that's all finished. But after tonight, I think Nathan will be around to take some photos of the inductees and family, and stay as long as you want afterwards. So that's all I have. I appreciate you coming, and congratulations again, Randall and Lee.
Tim messed me up. I was going to tell you, since you really didn't have any reason to know who I was. Next on was Terry Wilkerson, and I was going to tell you that I was Terry Wilkerson, the president of Rend Lake College, and go on from there, but can't do that tonight. He was not able to be with us. So I will now proceed to what you all came for tonight, and that's to honor two gentlemen, and we've got two other prestigious gentlemen to do the favor for us. Scott Wagner, he is in the Sports Hall of Fame. He was inducted in 2018. And at the time, Scott, one of the first things he said, and one of the things that left an impression on me, was he talked about teammates and all that, but he talked about the inspiration that a sophomore provided to him when he first got here and maybe changed his work ethic a little bit. And he talked about Randall Shively and the example that Randall had set with his workout regimen. But Scott himself was a first-team All-Stater as a freshman after hitting .373. He played in the All-Star game in Chicago with two sophomore teammates, Randall Shively and Michael Rear. He produced a .551 slugging percentage as a sophomore, boasted 31 extra base hits overall in a two-year career, and produced a 68-43 winning record for Coach Mike McClure during his stay here. Scott today is the principal and superintendent and principal of Pinckneyville Elementary and Junior High School District. I think he's only the principal over maybe the junior high, but he's the superintendent over both of those. But probably more importantly than that, he's also the husband of RLC Dean of Community and Corporate Education, Margot Wagner, who is with him tonight. So at this time, Scott, turn it over to you. Introduce to somebody really important.
Well, thank you. It's not very nice compliments, but I do know where Steelville is, and I have actually some Steelville people that work for me. So, but it was interesting. I was sitting in my office, and I'm glad you brought up this about where I work, because the phone rang and I answered, and somebody called me Dr. Wagner, and I was, well, you've got Wagner right, but the doctor's not anywhere in my repertoire. So it was Randall, and it was shortly after the passing of Coach McClure, and he said he had a problem. I said, what's your problem? He said, well, I need somebody to introduce me into the Hall of Fame. And I said, well, I'd be honored to. And I said, most of all, I think Coach McClure would be okay with that. So I'm kind of sitting up here today, pinch hitting for Coach McClure. And we all think very highly of him and what he did for us in our lives. And you can see from the people that are here tonight, including myself, what this baseball program did for me. Because I'm not sure I would have went to school without it. And I'd say the same thing for Randall. Although I won't be able to tell a great story about how, Mike McClure recruited Randall, I can tell you that there's not a more deserving person than Randall Shively. He should have been in way ahead of me because he did lead the path for me. And the thing that, when I read you do such a good, Bob does such a good job of writing this. I was laughing with Randall when he mentioned some of the guys in the social event that they went to. I went to one of those same social events, but I called them Moondog, Peach, and Smitty, and Randall. That's who the four were. Yeah, that's right. So, and the second thing was, I was at that wedding that we played the ball game. We all beat it over there. We did sit in the back row, and there's probably a reason why we were sitting in the back row, but we enjoyed ourselves here, and I can't think enough of him, and how your life turns and stuff. And I spent 10.5 years at General Tire, and lo and behold, who's at General Tire with me? Randall. So we've stayed connected over the years, and so it's a great privilege for me tonight. And just what Bob said, I did mention that in my induction speech about the work ethic of Randall Shively. If you ever saw, one of our regiments was a 3-mile run, and it was from the gym here all the way to the curve and back. And we did this all winter. And if you ever watched him run it, you'd understand what I'm talking about, work ethic, because he left all of us behind. But he was a real true inspiration to all of us. And I could stand up here and talk about his curveball, his fastball, and all those things, but his high moral character is what I would talk about. How his loyalty to the team, a team leader. He's a person that was a true competitor. When he stepped in between the lines, it was on. And that's where Mike got that name about a wild man, because he was focused when he got in there. And your children never get to see this, but your father was a heck of a competitor. And he got the most out of his ability. There was many people more gifted than Randall, but nobody got more out of his ability than what Randall did. So when I want to sum this up, I was thinking how I could do this. And how I would tell you it would be summed up is this. When you become a coach or an educator, like most of you are, you'll have certain people come through your lives that mean a special thing to you. And if Mike McClure was standing up here today, one of those special people would be that guy right there, because he touched us all. And so I have the honor tonight of introducing Randall Shively into the 2020 Sports Hall of Fame here at Rend College.
Ready?
Very good, bud.
Thank you. Maybe you can tell some of the other stories. Well, this is nice. I don't know who that guy is in the picture. This hat, first of all, I want to say thank you for everyone that's coming this evening. You took time out of your lives. We're all busy. Some of us raced to get here on time. And some of you drove from out of state, from Kentucky. These are some of my cousins and my sister. I'm just really thankful to see everybody. And just thank everyone who went out of your way to come tonight. It's such an honor to be here. I've been looking forward to it. I'll be kind of glad to get it over with, because I've been a nervous wreck for about a week. Last year when Tim called me, a year and a half ago, I couldn't hardly speak. You remember? I kind of feel that way tonight. But this hat I've had for 43 years. And there's not many people in this room I've known that long. Dave Ellensworth taught me hydraulics my freshman year at Rend Lake. We've been friends for 43 years. Roger Treese. I was a student worker for Roger Treese whenever I worked in that department, right? In the late 70s. In 1995, I came back as his boss over the department, and I had fun with that. Roger was really nervous. He says, wait a minute, I know this guy. So, anyway, this is a special hat. I've kept it all these years. There's just not many people I've known for that long here in Illinois, because originally I am from Kentucky, small town outside of Owensboro. And I'm going to tell you the rest of that story that I've not told. I don't think I've ever told anyone the whole story except my wife. But I got some things I want to share with you. It kind of tells how I got here, if you don't mind. Scott was a freshman when I was a sophomore. But my freshman year, Scott wasn't here during that time. But he still knows who I was my sophomore year, and I'm glad it was positive. But anyway, I'd like to share a few things with you about how I became a player at Rend Lake College, truthfully. I grew up in a conservative, traditional family. I was the oldest of 6 kids. Both our parents worked. They worked hard. And they raised 6 good kids. 2 of my sisters are here, and some couldn't make it, but my parents worked hard. And the summer of 1977, Peggy, you remember that year we graduated? Sure. Yeah. We went to school together for 12 years, Peggy and I did, first cousins. But that summer of 1977, I was pitching a baseball game in Owensboro, Kentucky. My cousin, his name is Curtis, was catching on the opposing team. This coach from Rend Lake College came to watch Curtis catch and hit. After the game, I guess Curtis had a pretty good game. Mike McClure wanted to talk to Curtis after the game was over. He said, oh, by the way, who's pitching on the opposing team? Curtis said, my first cousin. You want to talk to him? Sure. So that night, I met Mike McClure for the first time, pitching on the opposing team. And to be honest, I was not a major standout. I mean, I played in Owensboro, I competed, I liked to win, but you know, I didn't throw super hard. I just worked hard at winning. So when Curtis and we decided to come to Rend Lake College, he was the one being recruited, I came as a tag-along, and we drove 2.5 hours to Mount Vernon, Illinois from Western Kentucky, and we literally thought we were going across the country. Neither one of us had been that far alone before. It was dangerous in many ways because we were a little bit foolish in some ways. But anyway, I was only 17 years old when I came to Rend Lake College. I didn't turn 18 until September. So I was a pretty young college student on my own and not making the best decisions in life. So as the first semester got underway, I wrote all this down, but I'm just going to tell you how it happened. I can't read it. First semester, I was making some bad choices, having a lot of fun though, and I came to Rend Lake College to get away from home, to play baseball, and to go to college. And that was the order of my priorities. I mean, truthfully, that's how it was. Halfway into the first semester, probably not even halfway, I had flunked my first 5 or 6 tests. I mean, I was on my way south in every class. About halfway into the semester, I was taking this social problems class led by Miss Eleanor Hall. Remember Miss Eleanor? Sweet lady. She took us to some prisons, got to know a little bit about that. You know, some of the things that are happening in our lives that we never get to see. But we went to a couple prisons and maximum security, minimum security, and But this one field trip we went on was to Anna Mental Institution. And I can remember every floor and how the people were living. They were being taken care of. There was nothing wrong. But I left Anna Mental Institution. Is this mic on? Should I stay close to it?
You're doing it right.
Okay, good. I left Anna Mental Institution with a different mindset. I realized that God had blessed me with average ability, but very healthy. I had a good mind, I was in good physical shape, I was healthy, but I was an average student at best, and I was an average athlete. But I decided that from that point on, I was going to give it 110% in my academics. I changed my priorities at this point. In my academics and my baseball career. And believe me, I was raised with a family with faith and belief that God was there to help us. So I prayed. Now, I was a little bit foolish. I did things I shouldn't have done, but I prayed when I left that Anna Mental Institution. And I just said, I'll give it 110%. I'll be disciplined. I'll do what I'm supposed to do. I'll do my best I can in academics. Just help me. Help me get through this. Well, at the end of the first semester, I brought my grade point average from failing everything to about a 3.0 at the end of the first semester. And thankful that Coach McClure put me in relief in a couple games in the fall. And I got a couple wins. I don't know how I got those wins. They're on my record. I got 2 wins somehow in relief. I was not in the starting rotation as a starter. That doesn't sound like a Hall of Famer, does it? But I'm telling you the truth. At the end of my first semester, I kept that regimen going. I was running 5+ miles a day. I was timing myself. I learned some of this from Wayne Arnold. He was a runner in his good old days. I mean, he was a runner, and if you could keep up with him or outrun him, you were doing something. So from the end of that first semester all the way to the spring season, I was running 5+ miles a day, lifting weights 3 times a week, throwing the baseball every day, even coming up with a new pitch here and there, trying to get more creative. And, most baseball players would run a mile or 2 miles. I mean, it just wasn't something that was thought too highly of as a baseball player. You didn't want to run. But I had this deal going. I was going to do my part, and I was just praying that God would do his part. Okay. Spring season come around. Coach McClure let me start a game. And that's how I looked at it. He let me start one. And I won. He let me start another one. And we won. And every 5 or 6 days we won. And, other guys were winning too. But my record at the end of the spring season, as you've seen in the book, my record was 7-0 with an ERA of .7. And I don't know how I got there. Just a bunch of sweat, running, throwing. And, and you don't get those things by yourself. You got to have good defense. Somebody's got to score runs. The best pitchers out there, they got to have 3 runs on the board if they're going to be consistent winners. Isn't that right? No pitcher wins by themselves. But that's what happened. And at the end of my freshman year, I believed in being the strongest guy on the field at the end of the 9th inning. That's just where I wanted to be. I didn't want there to be any question about it. I wanted to be the strongest one when that game was over. And sometime when the games were over, I'd go out and run sprints just to get myself ready for the next game. That's just how it was. I had the bar set pretty high, and I always believed in throwing the first pitch for a strike and then throw hard. And that, good things happen. Getting the right bounces, getting the right breaks, and you win ball games. And at the end of my freshman year, this was the end of the season. I was pitching against Wabash, and we went 14 innings, 4-4. Bob in the 14th, they had a home run, and we lost 5-4. That was my loss of the year, my freshman year. But Mike McClure let me pitch the whole thing. I pitched all 14 innings. So at the end of the day, I was a little bit hurt, but I left it all on the field. I gave it 110% to the very last hit. So I was satisfied. It was a good year. I knew what had already happened. I was satisfied. It was a great year. I knew where I'd come from. And it was just awesome. But you know, it wasn't over yet. I went home. Curtis went back to his hometown, played baseball in the summer. We both ended up playing on the same team in the summer as we did the year before. Curtis had decided to come back to, or stay in Owensboro and go to Kentucky Wesleyan. I decided to come back to Rend Lake. But during that summer, I was playing on the Senior Babe Ruth League, and the Velvet Bombers asked me to play on their American Legion team. And normally they don't ask people that live out in these little towns 20 miles away. It was always the city boys in Owensboro, Kentucky that played on that team. So I thought, why not? I guess I'll play for them. So at the end of the season, I'm just going to cut a lot of it off here. At the end of the season, I was 4-0 for the Senior Babe Ruth League, but most of my pitching went into the American Legion. And I was 10-0 that summer, and we were state champions. Never dreamed of that when I started, but we had an unbelievable team. Got a lot of the guys were on university scholarships, great defense. They knew how to score runs. I mean, these were all the best players around, and I got the pleasure of playing on that team with them. And you know, even at that point, even after all that fun, playing on 2 ball teams that summer, working a full-time job with my dad at a grain elevator, it was just so much fun. Playing every night, working every day. Then I went back to Rend Lake, and you know, God wasn't done yet. The goodness of this life that I was blessed with, being an average individual, it wasn't over yet. At the beginning of my second year, I asked this pretty girl right back here if she wanted to go to a social gathering. And she said yes. Thank goodness. We started dating. This spring will be 43 years. So, been pretty good, hasn't it? But we're still raising 3 kids. They've got kids, so it's even more fun now. But my second year at Rend Lake, we got married at the end of my second year at Rend Lake in April. We got married over the weekend, had a one-night honeymoon, I think it was. She went back to Eastern Illinois University to finish her semester, and I went back to Rend Lake to finish mine. And we were married. That doesn't sound much fun, does it? But we just knew what we had to do. We both wanted to finish school, and then we agreed that I should pursue baseball and continue to go to school. So we wrote some letters of intent. Letters of interest, let me say. Letters of interest to a few schools that we were interested in, and we got some offers. And being from Kentucky, you guys won't believe this, Rand and I together turned down a full scholarship at the University of Kentucky.
Oh, man.
It just wasn't a good fit. Well, the academics weren't transferring as well as I'd hoped. Academics. You believe that was a priority of mine? The credit hours just wouldn't go to University of Kentucky the way I'd hoped they would have. Or that would have been a dream come true to play there. But Rand and I went to Murray State and got a better offer. 68 of my 70 credit hours transferred. You can't turn that down. And it was a full scholarship. So Rand and I went to Murray on a full scholarship and lived in married housing. So I was able to graduate at Rend Lake in May of '79, Murray State in May of '81, 2 years later. You know, God is amazing, isn't he? One of my biggest embarrassments of almost flunking out, I had 6 siblings at home younger than me. I had to go back home. I was going to have to tell them the truth of why I was back home. I was going to have to explain to my parents all the mistakes I made at the age of 18. I didn't want to do that. I was desperate. And I was blessed. I could not have predicted, I couldn't have dreamed, I couldn't have planned a better outcome than what took place. And I owe all the credit to Rend Lake College and Mike McClure giving me a chance. I came as a tag-along, remember? I didn't even start in the fall, but Mike McClure gave me a chance. And you know, things can happen when you get a chance. But I want to thank Rend Lake College for the opportunities. After I left here as a student, I never thought I'd be back. I had 2 or 3 different careers. They were all good. But my third career path, I got an opportunity to come back to Rend Lake to work as a physical plant director in summer of '95. And I stayed in that position with the same title for about 21 years. So about 5 years ago, I retired and take care of my wife and my grandkids. And I still work. Can't give up the work, but I enjoy everything I do. But Rend Lake College has been a world to me. All the way back 43 years ago, Rend Lake College has been good to my family. My wife graduated from here. My daughter's got a nursing degree from here. Well, I don't know how many degrees she's got from here, but she's got a handful. But nursing was her chosen career path, so that was great. But Rend Lake College has been good to my family. I'm thankful. But it all goes back. It all goes back to the summer of '77, and Mike McClure giving me an opportunity, and I'll never forget that. Thank you.
These next 2 people have a tough act to follow, don't they? Speaking of classy gentlemen, which we've been doing all night about these honorees, Sonny Wyatt, I think you may have met your match in the presenter I'm about to introduce. Coach Brad Weathers.
Went really strong on the introduction.
Do what?
Wanted to go really strong on the introduction to kind of carry the whole thing.
That's what I'm going to do. I have to because I'm reading his stats that he provided me with. Did you provide me with these, Brad? Coach Brad Weathers, a former Warrior basketball teammate, was inducted into the RLC Sports Hall of Fame as an alumni coach in 2013. James Bradley Weathers also is a member of the McKendree University Hall of Fame and the Illinois Basketball Coaches Association Hall of Fame. His Carlisle Indians won a Class A state basketball championship in 1989. Forget all the rest of those honors. You do that one time anywhere, you're the man for the rest of your life. But he's done an awful lot. Brad was 571 and 360 losses, a 61% winning percentage in 31 seasons at Carlisle and Nashville high schools. He has served on the IBCA Board of Directors and is a past president of the Southern Illinois Coaches Association. Coach Brad Weathers.
Thanks, Bob. Appreciate the kind words. First of all, we would all love for Coach Wall and Coach McClure to be here. We all know that. And they would have loved to have been here. But in their absence, I'm extremely honored to get to introduce Sonny Wyatt, a 2020 Rend Lake College Hall of Fame inductee in men's basketball. Sonny is how we knew him. I know in the professional world, it's Lee Wyatt. If you want to look it up, it's pretty impressive. It's been Sonny to us all these years. So Sonny was a teammate and good friend. He played basketball from 71 to 73. He played baseball his freshman year. He opted out his second year to concentrate on his career. And if you look at the career, you probably made a good move there. He was one of the best all-around athletes I've ever been around. He was all conference in 2 sports. At that time, his freshman year, he was all-conference baseball, and he was all-conference basketball at both years. First team his second year. First year, freshman, in the backcourt, 6-foot guard, he averaged 16.7 points a game, led the team in assists. We were 18 and 11 that year, and that at the time was the most wins in the history of Rend Lake College, and I think that included, Bob didn't even include Mount Vernon, Mount Vernon also. The following year, again, he averaged over 16 points a game, and he led us to a 20-6 record, which was the first 20-win team in Rend Lake's history, and also our very first conference title in the Southern Illinois College Conference, finishing 7-1. He was our leading scorer. Again, led us in assists, so he not only could score, but he also gave the ball up. His 896 career points was second in all-time scoring list when he graduated, okay? And that's still, most recently was at the 11th. He was still 11th on the career list, even though the number of games has increased tremendously. And to me, the impressive thing, there was no three-point shot at the time. And, he had range. I think Kretz can vouch for that. He had good range and shot 49% from the field his sophomore year, so I'm sure that point total would have been much more. Outstanding player. On a personal note, Sonny met his wife Jackie Brown here on campus. The Pinckneyville, Sonny's from Steelville and she was from Pinckneyville. They hadn't met, but I think Bob kind of told the story a little bit. They were the perfect couple on campus. They were both straight A students. He was the good all-around athlete, really standout athlete. She was the pretty blonde cheerleader, and both popular, both very well respected amongst her peers as well as the staff here. I know I made a mention to teammates back at the time. I sure would. They were both very athletic, and I thought, man, I'd like to coach their kids. And my prediction was not off. Of course, it didn't take a genius to figure that out. I ran into the oldest of the three sons, Lance, when Sonny was living in Columbia, and their son was playing for Columbia. We were in the conference when I was coaching at Carlisle, and we give it the best shot. They thumped us at Carlisle, and and Lance was a big part of that, probably the biggest part of it. And and on top of that, I didn't get to see his next two sons play, but his middle son Kyle played basketball at O'Fallon. And let me back up. Lance played at Swick too before he went to Illinois, and played on the scout team for a year. So that kind of gives you an idea of the level of competition he was playing. And then Kyle played basketball at O'Fallon after they'd moved to O'Fallon, and then played at Swick. Youngest son Jay played soccer in high school and then at Greensboro College in North Carolina. So they were an extremely athletic family. While Sonny's athletic achievements were extremely impressive and very worthy of Hall of Fame status, really, I'm kind of losing my place too, Bob, here on this. All those achievements really pale in comparison to what he's done once he got out of school. His career in business is phenomenal. He went on from here to SIU, got a accounting degree at SIU. He earned his MBA at WashU, and from there his career in business spanned 40 years. He started in a public accounting group in St. Louis. Later he moved to North Carolina and worked there, and he finished in Chicago. He was the chief financial officer of several S&P companies, including Sealy, Sonic Automotive, Hanes Apparel, and Fortune Brands. And he was the CFO in 2014, this is really impressive to me, and I'm sure it will be to you too. In 2014, he received the Chicago Chief Financial Officer of the Year award in the entire Chicago area. And during all that time of his adult life, he was either a church deacon or a church leader. On top of that, it gives you an idea what kind of person he is. And he's kind of semi-retired in 2017. He's got residence. He's in Naples, Florida in the winter, and he's at Blowing Rock, North Carolina in the summer. And he's found time to establish a family foundation to support faith-based organizations and selected need-based charities. He also serves on the board of 3 companies and 2 Christian ministries. That's pretty impressive. Please welcome home a very deserving Lee Sonny Wyatt, the 2020 Hall of Fame induction.
Hey, so Randall, when we do family pictures afterwards, I may borrow some of your family. It's just, I don't have anybody with me, but you've got more than enough, so I'll take some of the cute ones on that back table back there. Thanks, Brad. I appreciate it. It's interesting. When I got the call about the Hall of Fame, I had 2 reactions. First of all, it's been 50 years. That's a long time. My second reaction was, what took them so long, they must have put everybody on the Hall of Fame before me. They probably went through cheerleaders, managers. They probably gave it to the guy who sold tickets out front before I got there. But then Tim explained that it was at least 20 years, which made it a little better. But I'm very appreciative, and I thank you. Bruce Harmson from Stillville came up to me in the sophomore or senior in high school and said, "Hey, my dad said, well, maybe we should think about Rend Lake." And Bob referenced this, and I said, "What's Rend Lake?" And his dad's a smart guy, American Legion baseball coach, real serious guy. So we should think about this. So here was his proposition. He said, "We can live away from home. You can live with friends, Bruce and I and another from Stillville. So you can do whatever you want. It's far enough from home that you can be wild and crazy if you need." And Bruce did. I personally did. But that may not be totally true. But yet close enough to go home and get food, because we had to cook for ourselves. And you could also go home on weekends and get your clothes washed. 2 big pluses, and then you could bring some food back, actually, so you could survive the week. So that was a good proposition. He said you could play both baseball and basketball. Thought, that's really cool, because you usually don't get to do that. And he also, his kind of closing argument was, they have college girls there, a lot of college girls. And so with that, we voted and said, this is the place we should go. So that was his proposal. So what did we find when we got here? A very welcoming environment, especially for college, especially when you come from Stillville. It's 2,000 people. We didn't get out much, so we were a little naive probably. But very welcoming environment. The coaching staff was really supportive and very positive. Coach Wall, just probably one of the most uplifting and encouraging people I know, and a good basketball coach. Mike McClure, good baseball coach. Maybe not as encouraging as Coach Wall. A little tougher, kind of kept us between the white lines a little bit more than Coach Wall, so they were a good combination. Mr. Arnold, was there every time you ever went in the gym. He looked like a drill sergeant. He had a flat top. He was always running around the gym, always constantly running. And he looked mean from a distance, right? And then when you saw him eat, he would eat things like this green stuff, and it looked like hay kind of on his plate. And which kind of told me that's probably why he's so mean, because he's eating that kind of food. But then when you got to know him, he was super nice, super supportive, and really fit right in well with Coach Wall and Coach McClure. So you found a real very positive environment. You found a classroom setting where the classes were good size, reasonable size, they weren't too large. Teachers were all very supportive, and it just made going to school here easy. You know, you think about the sports teams, like concentrate on basketball for a minute. What a neat group of guys that we had. It was so much fun. We were all competitive, but didn't compete against each other so much, and just had a good time on and off the court. It was really good. You know, like Brad Weathers, you know, he's from Benton, first of all, so he's going to be really knowledgeable and good about basketball. And that was impressive because when we came here to play basketball, you know, feeder schools were Mount Vernon and Benton, which were kind of two megas of basketball back then. So Brad, he was always one step ahead of us. He always knew what to do. He was always telling us, and we didn't care. I just kind of wanted to shoot the ball, and he always knew how to play. The one conflict I did have with school is in basketball, you know, they never talked about scoring, the coaches. It was about team play. It was about defense and rebounding and assist. And by the way, I think my assist totals are inflated. I don't remember getting any assists personally, so I think those are inflated. But I just wanted to shoot the ball because, you know, in college, girls don't know about defense and they don't know about assists. They just know who shoots and who scores because you clap when you score. And so a little bit of a conflict. Took me a while to work through that. But then it worked out okay because we kind of found some middle ground, and I got to shoot some, and I'd have to get an assist occasionally, or Coach McClure would put me on the bench. But it worked out well, and it was so supportive. John Kretz, I remember coming at my sophomore year. He was a freshman, and he's kind of this cute guy, right? He's got this blonde hair. He's from Christopher. And really good set shot from outside. You know, scored a lot of points at Christopher. And so just was a cool guy and brought some real outside presence. I tried to pick one habit up from John, because you always try to learn. Like Brad, you just try to learn about basketball, because he always was thinking about doing this. You try to learn it. With John had this habit. I'd never seen it before. You know how a lot of guys, your tennis shoes get slick at the bottom from dust? So a lot of guys will wipe their feet off. John would spit on the floor in front of him and then walk up and rub his feet in it. Pretty unusual, but it worked for him, and I thought, that's pretty cool. The guy's good looking, girls like him, I'll try that. So I started doing that. My mom comes to a game. She says, what'd you do out there? What do you do when you do that? I said, well, yeah, it works for John. I spit, it kind of keeps your feet slick and keeps them being slick. She goes, no, don't do it. So I had to stop. I only did it for like 2 weeks. It worked for him. He got 2 seasons. I got no spitting after that. So I learned from him. Roger Treese was our manager. I actually think my grade point average would have been higher if I didn't know Roger, actually. Roger may not, you know, I'm not sure how much we helped Roger, how much he helped us as the manager. He was always there. He was always focused. But my grade point average would be higher. I can just say that. I probably would have got in earlier at night sometimes and all of that. But the combination was great fun. We just had a lot of fun. We didn't really worry about a lot. You just got to, you know, in summer you look at it and go, all right, you get to go play baseball and basketball and in a fun environment where school is manageable, classes are manageable, everybody's pretty nice, all the staff is supportive, and college cheerleaders ask you out for a date. That was kind of the concluding remark. That was the good stuff. So my wife asked, she was a cheerleader, she asked me out for the first date. This is where I usually stop and tell students, Randall, too late for you, but just be careful who you go out with when they ask you the first time, because you never know how that's going to turn out. And we've been married 45 years and it's been great, but you just can't go out with the first person that asks you. That's all I'm telling you. Just be careful. But we had, and this isn't being taped, right? You're going to, don't tape that. So just to kind of wrap up a little bit, you know, I kind of look at Rend as the foundation for a lot of Jackie and my life. It kind of, you come out of a small town, you really don't know really what's going on very well, and you're trying to get some momentum in life. You're trying to understand what's important. And it was such a comforting and encouraging environment here, starting from coaches to students to faculty. I remember the President Snyder was here then, really sophisticated guy, kind of an older guy, always wore like a suit. Used to come to the games, would come into the dressing room afterwards occasionally. Invited us over to his office before, and I'm a young guy from Stillville. He's in a suit, he's got all these plaques on his wall, he's got this big desk. It's really cool. He says, hey, come sit in the desk and all that. So you get to sit in the desk and you go, this is pretty cool. This might be almost as good as playing basketball when you can't jump anymore. But so Skip Watunksy was the business manager there. And I remember my sophomore year, he came up to me and said, where are you going to school? I said, well, I'll probably go to SIU, get more serious about school and stuff. And he said, I've been looking around. If you'll fill out these papers, I can get you an academic scholarship to SIU, pay all your tuition and all that. And he said, and by the way, I've already filled most of it out. You kind of just need to sign right here. So, I knew him, but I didn't know him that well, but he went out of his way to come up and say, hey, I can help you. And that's the way pretty much everybody there was. And it was, so I think about it very foundational. It gave me and Jackie the opportunity to kind of get some momentum, get some academics kind of under our belt, and with some confidence and to want to go out and work hard and all those things. And I remember one time Coach Wall, I think it was the fall freshman year, first time we got our grades, and I didn't pay much attention to grades. I did okay, but it wasn't, it was like way down the list of priorities, kind of like Randall. And he came in and said, hey, we had a couple guys here made the dean's list. And he pointed at me and someone else, and he said, hey, sports fans, that's pretty impressive. And that was just something I still remember to say, wow, maybe I should focus a little bit more on these grades and academics. And so just a little comment like that kind of spurs you on to say, hey, I should be more focused, and I can, and there's something neat. It's not just about exactly basketball girls. They still rank higher than academics, but it's not the only thing on the list. So he at least put them on the list. So, I don't, so I look at Rend Lake as being so foundational to what our family's done, and all the business stuff and all that was great, but none of that probably happens, at least not as well, without the Rend Lake Foundation and with the friends and all the fun we had. It was, I don't know, the Lord's chosen to bless us for sure in a lot of ways, and one of those ways clearly is that, coming to Rend Lake was a really big part of that for both Jackie and me. So thank you. This is a real honor. I appreciate it. It's been 50 years. Could have done it sooner, but it's better late than never. That's a joke. I'm very humbled, and I appreciate it. And thank you, Brad, for the kind words, and for everyone that came out. And I'll take that back table, Randall, for pictures. That's a really cute looking group back there. Thank you.
Most of you will have to trust me when I say this, and I've emceed several of these, but I have never asked for this, but don't you think we deserve to give the selection committee a hand too? Didn't they do a great job this year? And Tim, you narrowed it down where the vote was simple for us, so what more could you ask for? Thank you very much for honoring our honorees tonight and being with us. We appreciate all of you coming, as I know they do. You're welcome back anytime, and welcome back on campus. Anytime you've got young ones coming up, think of us. But we have loved having you tonight. We couldn't be more proud of graduates than we are of the two we've honored tonight. And there's two of very many. We've got a lot of people to be proud of, but thank you very much for coming, and congratulations, you two. You're well deserving of this honor. Thank you.